Stories of tragedy, heroism, and fate. Robert Overker's fatal fall. Robert Overker had a heart full of purpose. He wasn't just an adventurer. He was a man on a mission to raise awareness for the homeless. As he revved his jet ski and sped toward the roaring edge of Niagara Falls, adrenaline surged through his veins. The moment he launched off, there was a brief second of weightlessness, a second filled with hope. But then horror struck. His parachute never deployed. In those final moments, did he realize his fate? Was there fear, regret, or a desperate plea for another chance? The waters below showed no mercy, and Robert's noble cause turned into an unspeakable tragedy. A photo before the explosion. A peaceful afternoon. A car parked on the roadside. A father and child captured in time. Just seconds before hell broke loose. The explosion that followed took 29 innocent lives, including the very person who had taken this haunting photograph. The camera, found buried in the rubble, became a silent witness to unimaginable horror. The man and his child in the frame somehow survived. Did they hear the deafening blast before everything turned to chaos? Did they feel the scorching heat? That photo remains as both a miracle and a chilling reminder of how close life and death can be. Keith Sapsford's fateful curiosity. For 14-year-old Keith Sapsford, the world was an adventure waiting to be explored. His heart longed for something more, something beyond the confines of his home. So, on February 20th, 1970, he took a chance. Hidden inside the wheel well of a departing aircraft, he must have felt excitement, fear, and an overwhelming sense of freedom. But that dream turned to a nightmare. As the plane soared into the sky, Keith's grip slipped. He fell 200 feet, his young life ending in an instant. John Gilpin, an amateur photographer, had unknowingly captured the exact moment of his fall. An eerie and heartbreaking image that immortalized Keith's final seconds. The devastation of Operation Babylift. The war was ending, but for hundreds of Vietnamese orphans, it was just the beginning of a new life. Hope filled the air as they were lifted onto a C-5 cargo plane, their tiny hands clinging to unfamiliar caregivers, their eyes wide with uncertainty. But just minutes into the flight, that hope was torn apart. A deafening explosion shook the aircraft. Panic erupted. Oxygen masks dangled uselessly. Caregivers held on to the children, whispering words of comfort even as the plane spiraled downward. The crash left devastation in its wake. 175 survived, but over 150 perished. Flight nurse Regina Ahn, who fought through unimaginable pain to save lives, later recalled, "I will never forget that day. Neither will history." Gertrude Adderley, the woman who conquered the Channel. The icy waves of the English Channel crashed against her, each one testing her resolve. But Gertrude Adderley wasn't just swimming. She was making history. With every stroke, she defied the expectations of an era that doubted women's strength. The cold bit into her skin. The currents pulled at her body. Jellyfish stung her mercilessly. Yet she pushed forward. After 14 and a half grueling hours, she reached Kingsdown, England, exhausted but victorious. She had done more than just swim the channel. She had shattered records and proved that perseverance knew no gender. A mother's final embrace. Buried beneath the ruins of Lajayazan, a mother and her child remained locked in time. The earthquake had come without warning, shaking their world into dust. In those final moments, she did what any mother would do. She wrapped her arms around her child, shielding them from the unforgiving disaster. Millennia later, archaeologists uncovered their remains, a heartbreaking testament to a love so fierce that even death couldn't erase it. Across the centuries, her silent sacrifice still speaks. Love endures, even in the face of destruction. In 1969, At a time when African Americans were often barred from sharing swimming pools with white people, Mr. Rogers made a quiet yet powerful statement. With warmth and kindness in his heart, he invited Officer Clemens to sit beside him and cool their feet together in a small pool. In that simple, gentle act, he defied a deeply ingrained racial divide. As the water rippled around their feet, it wasn't just a moment of relaxation. It was a moment of silent resistance, of shared humanity, and of hope.